What's up, guys? Today's episode is sponsored by Melissa Flicks Author Services. Do you write for a living and get frustrated with trying to do it all? You don't have to. Melissa Flicks offers a wide range of affordable services ranging from book management to administrative tasks. Go to melissaflix.com, click contact to get started. Remember to put too many words in the subject line. Simplify your life so you have more time to write. Today's episode is also sponsored by LuLaRoe. LuLaRoe is a clothing company that provides comfortable, fashionable, and unique clothing for everyone. The famous soft, buttery leggings are only the beginning. LuLaRoe also has an amazing line of women's dresses, shirts, tunics, and t-shirts. Go to facebook.com/group/LuLaRoe Rebecca Clark. Type in code too many words to get 20% off your first order. Let's do the show. What's up, everybody? I am Jamie Bedingfield. You are listening to my podcast, Too Many Words, the place for the creative and more than slightly odd. Welcome if you are a returning listener. High five. Glad to have you back. And if you're new to the show, strap in and get ready. I have an awesome episode today. I'm pretty stoked about it. I talked to Jason Heller. He is a super talented author, musician. He writes for The New Yorker, Rolling Stone, Pitchfork. His list of awesomeness just continues. So be sure to check him out. And I was looking forward to recording the chat for a while. And great conversation. So I will have that for you in a bit. And something we get into a little bit in our chat, but I wanted to say more about it. 40 minutes goes by pretty quick when you're enjoying your conversation. But just the relationship between writing and music, and for me, it's very personal. I mean, I can't write really without music of some kind. I have, a wide range of instrumental stuff in the background, different playlists for different moods, for different stories, for different characters. Everything I do involves music. And I know I've talked to you guys about this before. But it's really cool. Yes, so that talk will be up shortly. And also, for those of you who haven't read it yet, I just my column in Feminine Collective, newest piece, Pebbles in Water, Self-Awareness in You, and I get into different actions by people and myself, and what part self-awareness plays. So that is there for your eyeballs. And speaking of my Feminine Collective column, those of you who read it know that I occasionally write a very painfully personal piece about my dysfunctional childhood and all that. And one of my articles, which is titled "I Am Not My Mother," gets into all her negative qualities. Yet she's my mom, and I wouldn't be who I am right now without her. Numerous reasons, even the way she treated me growing up and her in and out, that helped shape who I am today. And I talk about how accepting my similarities, but also knowing that I am not her, is empowering and all that stuff. And it's pretty cool because, I wrote this post a while ago, but just the other day, my aunt reached out with this beautiful essay of her own in response to my piece. And she was and is one of the most important people and influential people in my life, especially early on. She stood out to me at a very young age because she was the only person that kind of called my mom out for what she was. And she saw through the charade and all that a lot of my memories, my childhood memories that are, really positive, involve her. And she reached out just telling me how much I mean to her and all that she tried to do that I didn't know about to get me out of that situation, and how impossible it was, and just kind of justifying some of my thoughts, but also just warm and fuzzy sentences. And it's pretty cool that my piece kind of, made it paved the road for us to have this heart-to-heart, this vulnerable conversation that we haven't had. So words are powerful, folks. Don't forget it. I joked last week's episode, about being a boring host right now because I'm so consumed with the dystopian that I'm writing that, I'm all consumed, and most of my hours are obsessing over it. So that's most of what I've been talking to you about. And, I'm wrapping this phase up soon. I'm tinkering and angsting and agonizing over the ending, and, then off to my editor. And, I do not know what I'd be doing right now without her. Second round of edits will be starting soon. And I just, I love the editing process. I really do. And I know that not everybody does, and I know some people who dread it, but I don't know. There's just, it's one thing to take all these ideas and you take, you flesh them out, you put them on paper, you make them real, but when the editing comes in, you start to refine everything and make, find the details that, are needed, and just all of it. I just love watching it all come together. And I love, every time I see a highlighted section saying like, needs to be elaborated on, or great time to add more, detail about this, the history of this or whatever. I'm like, yes, sweet. Let's do this. I love it. I love it. What's a first for me with this project, though, is that part of me doesn't want to finish it. Not because I don't think it's good enough, or because my inner critic is speaking so loud that I can't possibly have fun. It's not that at all. I just don't want to stop. Those like really comfy jeans that you don't want to take off? I'm having so much fun, and I see everything that happens before it happens. All the characters have set up camp in my brain, and maybe this is just me in a different stage. I don't know. Writing a dystopian it's so fun for me. And I've always loved the genre. It's been one of my favorites as a reader and a viewer, but I've never wrote it myself. And then I started a dystopian short to send out, and my brain just clicked, and, here we are. So, that's been weird for me, working heads down to finish this thing with the desire to never stop. Good thing it's a series I'm pitching. And, the Walking Dead comics, Kirkman wrote a forward that's always stuck in my mind. And it did, like, as I was reading it, I'm like, oh, this is going to be in my mind forever. Like, it really spoke to me. But in the first volume, he speaks to how he wants to write this for a really long time, and he it's in him, and he really hopes everybody likes it because he wants to keep going with it. And, how I'm feeling right now, it makes me think of that forward. Richard Kadri tweeted yesterday, write what you cannot not write. And these words are awesome and riddled with just solid wisdom. And it's just so gratifying in a way nothing really else is, to see the words form the pictures, I imagine. And it has quite a lure. Jason and I speak to this in our chat a bit as well, but writing is it's an escape all its own, and it's pretty amazing. It's like having a universal key to all the worlds, all of them, even ones that haven't been discovered yet, especially those. But now, before I go to my conversation with Jason Heller, I'm going to play a song by his band, Cloak of Organs, and he is one of the guitarists. And this song is called Why We Are Whispering. When I first heard the song, I was like, yes, this is right in my wheelhouse. It definitely sparks the creativity. So enjoy. I'm playing it now, and then when the song is finished, I will be talking to Jason.
Hey, Jason, how's it going?
Good, Jamie. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm kind of in a weird stage because I'm 2/3 through drafting a manuscript, and my head is just so in writing, and I can see it all. And dealing with actual life has been more chaotic because I'm just like ultra distracted. I'm like burning food and all sorts of stuff.
Are you at the point where you feel physical pain when you've been away from the manuscript for too long?
Yes.
I know the feeling.
It's awesome, but it's also it makes real life intense.
It does.
I've been looking forward to having you on the show. I've been a fan of your writing for a few years. Ever since I read Taft 2012.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, that was a interesting book to write, and obviously, it being 2016, we're way past the sell-by date on the book, but I wrote about a hypothetical, speculative election for president that in no way could have anticipated how insane and unbelievable 2016 has been in that regard. So even if there wasn't a sell-by date built into the title of Taft 2012, the book has been absolutely rendered completely obsolete by the insanity of this election.
Earlier today, and I was making a note of Taft, and then I was thinking of the chaos that is upon us at the moment, and that's just it made me laugh.
Yeah, and to those listening who aren't familiar with Taft 2012, it's a novel that I had published in the year 2012, funny enough, and it is about William Howard Taft, who in this alternate version of history became America's first missing president. He was like the Amelia Earhart of presidents. He vanished from the face of the earth on his last day in office before the inauguration of Woodrow Wilson in early 1913. Point being, he disappears. 100 years later, he comes back, Rip Van Winkle-like, without having aged, and gets thrust back into the political arena, which in 2012 seemed like this insane, crazy idea. Wow. And yet now with what's going on, yeah, it pales in comparison on the weirdness level.
Well, it's interesting to me, like when you go back to previous works that have been written, and then you look at where we are today, like Fahrenheit 451. Nobody's burning books, but the changes in technology, sometimes, like especially like when I walk into my living room and everybody is hooked to a device, I think of that book. So,
right, no one's necessarily. Well, some people, there is book burning going on somewhere. Yeah, but maybe it's taken less literal forms, no pun intended, than the actual burning of books. But then at the same time, is it that much different than people trying to rewrite textbooks according to creationist viewpoints?
It's really not that much different, no.
Go on in America right now.
Man.
Yeah, we're getting this off to a real chipper start, aren't we?
Well, I mean, the intensity of the outside world is something that I focus on probably more than I should. But it's intense. So many people seem tense.
It's been a cause of insane anxiety for me. It's especially this last month with the election barreling down. And it's so funny, I think one of the things, in case it isn't abundantly obvious, I completely loathe and detest Donald Trump on so many levels. I think that, we, especially people who are against Trump, have been talking about how he is this fear merchant and traffics in fear, stirs up fear, tries to harness the fear in people and use it as his energy and try to surf that dark wave of fear. And what's funny enough is, I think all that is true, along with many other problems that he has as a candidate and as an excuse for a human being. But on top of that, even if you don't agree with Taft, the fear is everywhere. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things where, obviously fear itself being the worst thing to fear. But fear has become this really tangible and yet kind of subliminal thing sort of everywhere. I think it drives a lot of our actions and thoughts and responses to things when we don't even realize it.
Oh, it definitely does. It's funny that this is where the conversation is headed, because that has been on my mind a lot recently. And with the book that I'm working on right now, I'm dealing with a lot of characters who are basically fighting that line of like, are they going to give in to, the darker side of themselves, or are they going to do the right thing? And there's a lot of parallels there that you take from, you look around and like even, you know, talking poorly about somebody or rejecting something. I mean, that all comes from fear.
Yeah, and you know, well, and all that stuff. You know, we know this on a common sense level, and psychologists, I'm sure, have plenty to say on the topic. But you know, at the same time, just to play devil's advocate a little bit, I think that even as a writer myself, you know, fear is something that's been a great motivator to me. As much as I hate to, you know, give any credit to that, you know, the fear of failure, the fear of falling on your face. The fear of just not having work. I mean, I write for a living. It's what I do all day long, every day.
Yeah, same here. This is I just marked the 1 year of doing it full time.
Congratulations.
So fear. I'm familiar with the motivator.
Right, and it's not just the fear of writing. To me, it's also the fear of not writing.
Yes.
Right? It's the fear of, am I going to go back to working a retail job or be a warehouse worker again, which are my previous job qualifications? Is that where it's all going to end up if I'm not able to sustain what I'm doing?
Totally. I used to dress mannequins, so.
Yeah, see? And so, you know, so sometimes in that sense, fear can be a motivator, maybe not the healthiest one, but you know, I think negative emotions in general, it seems people try to overgeneralize and separate them out. So fear, envy, shame, all these things that, yes, they're patently bad things. And yet at the same time, they can be useful tools to you if you can navigate them. And certainly it isn't the case where you can snap your fingers and make them go away. So in a lot of our cases, it's a question of how do we use these things we're never going to get rid of. We don't want to make them worse. We want to mitigate them in our lives when we can. But to the extent that they're always going to be there, how can we turn them into positives, maybe use them to motivate what it is that we like to do creatively?
Exactly. Yeah, it's self-management to the max.
Yeah. And, you know, like I'm into punk rock and, you know, horror movies and all these things that a lot of people are into. And, you know, these are things that also do harness aggression and fear and a lot of these so-called, you know, negative emotions. And there's something cathartic about meeting them head on. There's something humanizing about art that admits and sometimes to an absurd degree, how much our lives are ruled by things like fear and aggression. And so, yeah, I never want to just discount the whole idea of negative emotions in our lives. You know, I think that they're always going to be there. That's a fact of life. But to whatever degree we can, you know, not only live with them, but see if we can't get a jolt out of them every once in a while.
Exactly. Like, figure out how to wield it like a wizard.
Yeah.
Manipulate the power for spells.
Yeah, or to try to get yourself elected president of the United States.
Yes, or just finish the book.
Or just finish the book.
That's my mind at the moment. But so, yeah, speaking of which, you have an upcoming anthology coming out November 8th.
I do. Yeah, the anthology is called Cyberworld. It's an anthology of roughly cyberpunk-themed stories. However, I co-edited this anthology with Josh Viola, who is the publisher of the book. He has a publishing company called Hex Publishers. And we edited this book together, and he wanted to do straight down the middle, old school, hard-boiled, meat and potato cyberpunk. My idea was to do something that was a little less strictly defined, as much as I love where all that stuff is coming from. And so when we were soliciting stories from authors, because it was an invitation-only anthology, we basically looked for authors that we thought some of them were going to give us that middle of the road, and I mean that in a good way, straight down the middle cyberpunk stuff, and authors that I knew were going to tackle that topic of things like, hacking and nanotechnology and just kind of all these various things that can fall under the umbrella of cyberpunk, virtual reality, and approach those from a different angle that maybe you don't see so much in cyberpunk. So I think that the anthology wound up being, hopefully a good mix and a good span of sensibilities and worldviews, and we endeavored very hard to make sure it was also a diverse anthology, so that we could get a great range of viewpoints in regard to the topic. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm really excited for the book.
That's awesome. I'm really excited to read it. I'm super, and I saw that the foreword is written by Richard Kadri, and he's awesome.
Yeah, Richard Kadri. We're lucky enough. Richard Kadri, of course, the author of the great Sandman Slim series. He wrote our foreword. We got glowing blurbs that we got to slap on the book from Chuck Wendig and Warren Ellis. And then we just got some amazing, authors in the book. From Alyssa Wong and Lucy Shaw, Stephen Graham Jones, Saladin Ahmed. We've just got a great.
That's awesome.
The list goes on and on. But yeah, I'm real excited about the book coming.
That's awesome. Sorry about the alarm.
That's okay. That's okay. We're talking fear here, so it's okay to throw something in to make me a little jumpy. It's a good trick.
The dolls come next.
It's so great. No clowns.
Oh gosh, no. It was my kid's school, which is an elementary school, puts on a Halloween carnival every year. And last year was the first year that we ended up going, and there was a haunted house. And I was thinking, elementary school, it's not going to be that intense. So, I take my 5-year-old and 7-year-old at the time into it, and at first it isn't intense. It's almost kind of cute, and you can clearly see that teenagers are doing it. And then we pass this awful clown, and he was in a box, and at first we thought that he was just one of those really elaborate Halloween decorations, but then he got out of the box, and I just covered my kid's eyes and ran out. That was too much for Mom.
Clowns are something special. It doesn't surprise me whatsoever that they've sprung back up in the zeitgeist these last few months with all the supposed clown sightings. And I don't know if this is just more urban legend taken to an insane degree in the internet age, or exactly what we're going to chalk it up to. Except I can guarantee you that a million horror filmmakers at the moment, all inspired, and within a year and a half, we're going to be seeing a glut of clown movies.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Perpetuate themselves.
Oh man, no, I'm not down with clowns. I agree with that prediction, though. I don't know what all those reports are either. I mean, there's been a lot of sightings in Seattle, and I'm reading stuff on, in the newspaper, and I'm like, I don't know what to make of this.
Well, I think it's the same as any rash of sightings of anything that we've seen in history. Robert Anton Wilson, the late great author and philosopher, he talked a lot about this, and it gets a little bit Jungian and Joseph Campbell-esque, in that regard. Talking about these collective archetypes that run through societies, and it goes all the way back to waves of UFO sightings and alien abduction, waves of Bigfoot sightings, or any of the various provincial Jersey Devil type of critters, jackalope things, and really it all goes back to the archetype of the Joker, of the japester, that's what clowns tie into, you know what I mean? It's that kind of malevolent mischief, going all the way back to, trolls and gnomes and elves and the things that people used to think they saw or did see. back in pre-industrial civilizations. It's just another manifestation, another avatar of that, I think. I wouldn't go so far as to say those things are out there or not out there. And of course, it's easy enough to dress up like a clown. A little bit harder to dress like an alien and walk around and convince anyone. It's very easy to dress like a clown if you want to go out there.
It's true.
And it all goes back to Donald Trump, doesn't it? He's, if you have a nightmare of Donald Trump, it's more than likely he's going to pop up as a clown in your dreams.
Well, thanks for that tonight. But yeah, no, you're right. Well, it's hard, and I stay up to date with all of it because that's just what I do. I get papers show up at my door. I have stuff on my phone, but it's just, some of it just hurts my head. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah. All the stuff, all the political stuff that's going on right now. I can't take my eyes off it. I ingest way too much of it and pay more attention to it than I probably ought to.
Same here. And then I get all freaked out because there's all this horrible stuff that I can't control.
Yeah, no, this is great. That's why we're having this mutual therapy session. It's tough. But it's so easy to tap into let me put it this way. It's not that it's easy to tap into. You're opted in almost everywhere you turn. It's actually hard to opt out of being bombarded with this much information. It's kind of the default setting that we're being fed so much all the time. And so, sometimes I think we do need a vacation from all that. At the same time, as a citizen of this nation, I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't pay attention and wasn't on top of things. And then there's a spectacle of it, right? It's the whole Guy Debord style spectacle of, having, these things that are actually very serious being presented to us as entertainment or as a game. That narrative is built into us to respond to that, and so it with all the seriousness that goes on, it's still a pulse quickening, button pushing, adrenaline, gushing game to us, whether or not, intellectually we feel it to be that way. It's, it's hitting that same center of our brain, unfortunately.
Well, and also too, just in, the 4 years since the last election, there's something about the social media's involvement with this election. And part of that is just the horrible things that Trump puts everywhere. But it's just so, it feels like it's way more in everybody's face than it was. And there's even, elementary school age kids are paying attention because it's just that the frequency of it all is just so loud.
Yeah, I was even tweeting earlier today about TAF 2012 because I was just basically saying, like, even 4 years ago, even 4 scant years ago, it seemed like such a more innocent time compared to now. There are so many Rubicons that have been crossed in regard to decorum and civility and dignity, or even if it was just the appearance of those things for many years in presidential politics. Not that there hasn't been plenty of sleaze and all that good stuff, but it's like all that has been crossed. All that is in the rear view mirror. So this election is one thing, and I think part of the big fear is, well, this election will be over soon. Hopefully, with an outcome that isn't going to be apocalyptic. However, this is just the beginning of things. There's a lot of people out there who are voting, and this is their first time voting because they're younger people. This is the only election that they know. This is like the first election they've maybe ever really paid attention to. And is this normal for them now? Is this the new low bar? So going forward, are we going to be holding candidates and public officials to a much lower standard and the discourse to a much lower standard going forward now that it's been debased to such a level by Donald Trump? It's curious. And then on top of that, he's not going away. He may lose, sure hope so, but he's not going to go away. He is going to be on the stage for as long as people will listen to him, and people are going to listen to him until the day he dies. So
I know, such a circular. It's like to play off of Meet the Parents quote. It's like a circle of hate. I mean, he spews this just horrendous stuff, and his viewpoints are just, I don't understand how they even exist. And then, he puts it out there, and because of, you can just share anything instantly, it just travels all over the place, and it's just a terrible vibe. I mean, honestly, to put it simply.
Yeah. Well, one way, as you well know, to get out of all that, we're talking earlier about, God, how do you get away from that sometimes? Well, writing is a great way, that way you've got to kind of bury your head in the sand, for better or for worse, in your manuscript. So
yes,
that's always a good thing.
It is. And you have a forthcoming exciting book. 2018. See, I don't do the 20 in front of the number, but I need to start, because now as it gets, further out there and the numbers are getting bigger, it's a lot to say. 2018.
Yeah, I do. It is called Strange Stars. The book is not a novel. This one is a nonfiction book. In addition to writing fiction, I do tons of music criticism and book reviewing and things like that. I decided about a year and a half ago that I wanted to write a book about how science fiction has influenced music. I'm a musician, and I write about music, and I love science fiction, and I write science fiction, and it just seemed like the perfect confluence of things. I put together a proposal for this book and shopped it around, and in the midst of me shopping this book around, David Bowie died. David Bowie was always going to be the central figure of this book. I'm a huge fan, and he has always embodied how science fiction and music can come together. Was an informed, oh God, I hate talking about it in the past tense. He was an informed fan and devotee of science fiction. He created his own science fiction in his music. He also interpreted other people's science fictional works in his music, everyone from Arthur C. Clarke to George Orwell. And he, more than any other artist, I think, was the ambassador. He was science fiction's ambassador to music. And
totally,
up there in Seattle, you have the Science Fiction Hall of Fame, and David Bowie was the first person before he died, the first person who was a musician who was inducted into the Science Fiction Hall of Fame, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'd been working on this book proposal. My agent had been shopping it around. David Bowie died, and I wrote a big, huge essay about science fiction and its influence on David Bowie for Pitchfork.
Yeah, I read that. That was a fantastic piece.
Thanks. And, armed with that and my proposal, I was able to get a book deal with Melville House, which is a great publisher. And so, that's basically my main thing consuming me right now, is working on that book.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's exciting.
Thanks. I've got other stuff in the works too. I've got 2 novel manuscripts that are done, one is middle grade science fiction, one is fantasy for adults, and those are in various points of either being revised or being prepared to send out to some editors. And so I've got some other stuff on the back burner.
Nice. It seems to be helpful to have things on various burners, so when something needs to chill or you're waiting period with one, you can jump to another one.
It's really, to me, jumping from project to project and shifting from gear to gear is really what kind of works best for me as a writer. When I start to get in a rut too much with anything, it doesn't work for me. For 3 years, I was an editor at the AV Club, the pop culture component of The Onion. And I worked in a cubicle, and it was obviously a great place to work, but the nature of the work didn't suit me in that regard, because I didn't have that freedom to that flexibility. when you're a freelancer full-time, your full-time writer, as I'm sure you know, a lot of times your flexibility and freedom is a total illusion, right?
Yes, it is, and it's something that can bend your toes backwards.
It really can, and it's an illusion sometimes. And sometimes the time you take for yourself, or to kind of chase this or that, you pay for that later on with the time you wished you hadn't spent doing that.
Yes.
But yeah, that's your prerogative, right? As someone who's a self-employed creative. So that, it's always interesting. But yeah, being able to get different projects, and it's interesting too, the difference between writing novels and doing nonfiction books, because as I mentioned, nonfiction books you usually sell on proposal. Novels you usually sell after the book has not only been written, but revised at least a couple times.
Yeah.
And so even that's interesting in regard to professionally, when you're trying to get your work out there and sell it to publishers. You've got the stuff that you write, you might spend months writing with the hope that you will make some money at it. And then there's the stuff like nonfiction books where you write a proposal and then you get the money up front before you write the book, or some of the money. And so even when it comes to juggling things pragmatically, it gets tricky sometimes.
You know what? I hadn't thought of that before, but I would imagine that is an interesting swap to deal with mentally as you're trying to actually work. Because I have that trouble, is like, I'll have voices in my head telling me different things when I just need, it's like, okay, I need to worry about that later. Or
voices?
Well, what?
Clown voices?
No, just my own voices. Inner critic voices. The worry word and the critic.
Right, and the rolling editor and
yeah,
that whole host of people.
Yeah, Chicken Little's in there.
No, yeah, of course.
The whole thing's crap.
Yep. No, absolutely. Yeah, there's always that to deal with. There's always a lot of self-doubt, and not just in your ability, but you could be totally confident in your ability, but then worried that you're just on the wrong track. There's just so many things, and again, to go back to trying to turn negatives into positives, at the risk of sounding like Pollyanna or something, because really I'm a very grim person. But I think that, sometimes even that doubt, even that self-doubt can be turned into a good thing. I think that you can use that to motivate yourself. You can always use it. One thing that's helpful to me when it comes to self-doubt is you use it to strive harder, to never be completely content with the level you're at, either as a writer or as a professional, that you always want to do more. I have lots of people I know who've been doing the same thing I've been doing for the same amount of time, or if not longer. I've been doing this for about 15 years now.
Oh, wow.
And I think that, a lot of times people ask me, like, wow, you got books coming out and you write, I write for, Pitchfork and NPR and the New Yorker and Rolling Stone and places like that. And, people who've been doing it and who are probably more talented than me, are like, how did you do that? How did you get to do that? I've been doing this as long as you have, and I'm kind of still stuck over here. And part of that comes from the self-doubt and the dissatisfaction and not being afraid to move on. It's not always easy, and maybe not to get too personal here, but as a kid, I moved around a lot. I was not a military kid, but just in an unstable household where we moved a lot. We uprooted constantly. And I think that that's always kind of been the pattern for my life, and for better or for worse, I've taken that over to my writing career. So I'm always looking for something new, always ready to drop one thing, even if it's working well for me, and not get stuck in that rut and just kind of, cast off. I always kind of compare it to being a trapeze artist, but you just throw yourself off before you know where the next trapeze is coming from. You just hope that it's coming.
I love that. Yeah.
Not to extend the metaphor too much, I have no safety net. I have none. There is none. And for many freelance writers, they're in a similar boat.
Yep.
To some metaphors.
Well, it is intense, but like I found the same thing. Like juggling the multiple projects helps me stay sane. And anything that doesn't work out, project, there's a constant, kind of like going with the waves. Like you have to keep riding the waves, and the only way that the waves don't like get you to the beat you into the sand is learning how to navigate them, which is bettering what you can do and that kind of thing. And I'm stubborn, and I'm happy that I am, because I feel like that helps me.
Yeah, stubbornness is a great quality, and that's another thing that is always that's associated as a negative quality in many ways. And yet, again, as a writer, if you use it the right way, that stubbornness can really help. It's stubbornness is one way. That's one end of it, and then perseverance is the other. Right? It kind of depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, there you go. That's true. Perspective is it's a powerful thing.
I'm just trying to be a ray of sunshine today. That's my deal today.
A ray of sunshine.
Yeah.
I like to think of myself as like a drizzling cloud. Like nothing that ruins any outside plans. I make flannels extra comfortable.
Well, you are from Seattle.
Yes. I'm from New Jersey, but I've been out here for about 10 years.
Yeah. You're grungified.
So to kind of circle back to, grinding it out and that kind of thing, you've been at it for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
How was it like starting out and kind of cobbling a space for yourself? Because that's what I'm finding you have to do.
It was very difficult. I tried giving up a few times. I just started out writing for our local alternative weekly paper. I know you got The Stranger up there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the equivalent down here, which is Westward. And I started writing for them. And I was on a freelance basis. It was at a time, about 15 years ago, where internet journalism was really rising, and a lot of print editions, print publications like alt weeklies. Some of them had yet to really establish a strong online presence, and were still relying mostly on print. But print had started to fade a bit. It was the beginning of that big slide downward for print publications. It's rebounded a bit since then. But I was just at an odd point where if it was any other era earlier than that of print journalism, I probably would have had a staff job. But it was really, 15 years ago was the beginning of the whole gig economy type of thing. And so I was basically a full-time writer for them, but on a freelance basis, without any benefits. Had to pay my own taxes at the end of the year, instead of getting taxes back, which for a working person is a very hard thing to wrap your head around, especially when you live paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. I was making very little money. I got very frustrated. But as it turned out, what I had been writing and doing and putting so much effort into, I'd been learning my craft. I had been getting my name out there, and things did kind of spin out a bit here and there in a good way toward bigger and bigger publications. And like I said before, I would get to a certain point, maybe writing somewhere, and it wasn't like I would necessarily give up writing for that places. In some cases I did, but mostly I was always looking for the next thing I could do. Because here's the thing, I think a lot of people who get into freelance writing, or maybe any kind of freelancing, they will get sucked into that kind of gig economy mentality that we all have, which is you're just thankful to have some work. Right? And if you find one place, one publication, an editor that's going to give you steady work, you just want to cling to them, right? However, that might not always be the best thing for you. It might be beneficial to do that for a bit, but see, it's your prerogative as the freelancer to shop. You don't have a lot of benefits being a freelancer. One of them is you can shop, right? Your editors are shopping, but you have the prerogative to shop for different gigs. So exercise that.
Mm-hmm.
Spend some time always looking for new places to pitch to, for new places you might be able to get a toehold in. And then see if after you do that for a bit, it's just like, I guess, rock climbing. I don't climb rocks. I live in Colorado. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't, I guess.
I don't paddleboard.
Oh, yeah. See, so, yeah. We don't have to be the stereotypes of where we live. But, I think that, you find the toehold, you get to a higher elevation, and then you get comfortable and know your way around there. But you got to look to keep climbing. And sometimes the climb is, of course, a slide down, and then you find an alternate route that helps you get a little bit higher in a better way. It's never just a straight line. There's lots of sideways and roundabouts and weird stuff going on.
The occasional man-eating crocodile underneath.
Lots of man-eating crocodiles, and inhuman, monstrous presidential candidates keeping you up at night when you should be getting rest so you could write in the morning.
Yeah.
All these horrible things.
A Demogorgon here and there.
Clown face billionaires who aren't even billionaires. And so these are things, that when it comes to me, like because sometimes I do try to, tell friends of mine or colleagues, I try to tell them, what they might do, only when they ask, of course, no unsolicited advice. And I can never tell, everyone's path is different. Everyone's speed and rate of progress is going to be different. And, I think being hungry and dissatisfied, hey, another couple negatives, dissatisfied, right? But maybe be a little dissatisfied at all times. Never be fully complacent and just fully accept where you're at as a freelance writer.
Well, I gotta say, those words make me feel pretty good because I'm hungry and dissatisfied most of the time. So
Good. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm on the right track.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Well, Jason, could you tell everybody where they can find you?
Oh yeah, I'm not on Facebook. It was actually my New Year's resolution last year to get off Facebook, and I'm very happy I did, for many reasons. So don't go look for me on Facebook. I won't be there. I am on Twitter way too much. I am at Jason_M_Heller. I have a blog that's not even worth going to. I am one of those people that has weeds growing all over their blog. I post like once every 6 months to kind of sum up one thing or another. And then if you go to Amazon, you can click and see the books I've written, in addition to the stuff we've talked about already. I've done a couple media tie-in books, which have been pretty fun, official movie tie-ins. One's for Pirates of the Caribbean. I did a book a few years ago. And then I did one just recently for the Goosebumps movie for Scholastic. And so, I have a niece who's 10 years old. And it's only when I do one of these movie tie-ins that she thinks her uncle is a real author. The other stuff, she's just like, oh, okay, a novel, what is the, anthology, okay, cool. But then I show her a Goosebumps book that I did, or Pirates of the Caribbean, and then she's the proudest niece in the world.
Nice. My kids are telling me that I need to get my characters in action figures.
Yes.
And I'm like, you know what? I agree, that's pretty cool, but I'll let you know when that happens.
Yeah, right. That's what you just kind of run out to do.
Yeah. Well, Jason, this was so much fun. Thanks for coming on the show.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And that wraps it up for this week, pretty much. Be sure to check out Jason Heller's works, his words, his music. It's all awesome. So, and it was a pleasure having him on the show. You, of course, can find me on Twitter at MeBettingfield, the show at Twitter, on Twitter at Too Many Words Pod, Facebook as well, same names. You can go to femininecollective.com, read my column in the Matters of Kindness. Go to my site, jamiebettingfield.com, for links and ways to find out all of my good stuff, places I've been, and stories, and on and on. So thank you so much for listening, and talk to you next week. you.